Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today, Evan, today was an interesting recommendation for me, which was Saw. Not just, the first film,
Saw
but
in
the
general,
the
yeah,
franchise.
just
Let's talk about the Saw franchise. And me being the psychopath that I am, I watched all 10 Saw films.
I figured you'd get through a decent bit, but like you clipped through them in like 3 days,
I
and I'm like,
did.
Skye, how many movies do you watch a day? Jesus.
There were a couple days where I watched like 4 movies, yeah. 4 Saw movie. Because the thing is, watching 4 movies isn't even like that hard for me in a day. What's hard is that watching 4 of the same franchise at some point I started losing my mind because it's like, oh my god, there's so many. And you know how the Saw movies are, the way they're edited and everything, and sometimes yeah. But I enjoyed them. I like all of them. Even Jigsaw, which I would say is like by far the worst one.
What's funny, a lot of people, I got that sentiment. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I did buy the full Blu-ray collection, and what I find funny is that the more the Saw franchise has gone on, they've tried to make it look more cinematic. They've changed the aspect ratio and they're trying to make him look more like a movie. But I like how the original movies look. I like how they started from low budget and they have that like green filter, like yellow highlights.
Yeah, they have the piss filter. Yeah, I call it the piss filter, and I love it. It looks gross as fuck.
It's a good thing to fit in, but they've I don't know how Saw 10 looks because that was, Spiral and Jigsaw. Finally, they're just like, yep, Saw 10, like another Saw movie rather than sort of Saw.
We'll get into it, but that is one of the things where it's like I think the movies after they get rid of the piss filter, they're just not as interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I like all of them, but once they start trying to make them look like proper movies, I'm like, you're kind of losing the identity. It's supposed to be grimy and fucking disgusting and
Well, I
horrible.
mean, the whole what's the premise of the first Saw movie? Because you got to remember, like these all turned into Trap City, but I'm like, what is it? Two people in like a scumfuck bathroom and they're chained to pipes. And it's just like they got to saw their feet off. That's the idea. It's a contained thriller. It's a great testament to low budget because I'd like the stuff outside of the room in the first movie is probably where like more of the budget would have been spent. Not to mention all the elaborate traps, but the meat of the film is the two men in that room, not the traps. This is definitely apparent because I've only seen the first three. I haven't seen any of the other movies, even though I know of them. I know the deal with Hoffman. I know how many apprentices there are, and that there's always another one that happened like in the past. Like he's been killing people since like the 90s. It was just all secret and he recorded all of it. And it's like, what are like
I love that. I think it's so fun.
it's something for sure. One of the reasons that I never really watched Saw, like I watched the first two movies last October when I bought the full collection. And one of the things was I'd heard that John Kramer dies in the third movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, and forever after, they've just baited him somehow still being alive or faking his death or and it just turns
Uh,
out there's just always a bunch of apprentices, just always flashbacks that they bring him back.
I wouldn't say they baited that he was alive. I would say in universe a bunch of characters are like, "Oh my god, is he alive?" But like there was never any impression that he would be brought back until Jigsaw.
Yeah, that seemed to actually be like, yeah, he's somehow still alive.
But
It's
he
like, fuck off,
wasn't.
dude. It's
I'll,
just
I'll
another
get I'll
apprentice.
I'll
Yeah.
get into it. I'll get into it. The thing is, after he died, he's still a major presence in the movies because of like his influence and everything. So there's like a bunch of flashbacks and everything. Like he's still the main character of those movies, like him and Hoffman, even after he dies, which is interesting. Like there's a lot of scenes of Kim and Hoffman and teaching Hoffman basically.
He knew Hoffman before and he was his
Yeah.
apprentice, but then he took Amanda under his wing and
Yeah.
she just didn't know about Hoffman?
No,
Like,
they did. They worked together. Hoffman did not like Amanda at all, actually. So you know the letter that Amanda reads in the third film where she starts crying.
that was from him?
That no, that letter was written by Hoffman
For whom? For
for
Kramer?
Amanda. For Amanda, he was threatening her, if I recall correctly. Hoffman did not like Amanda at all. Yeah.
Let's talk about Amanda Young. My God. I don't think I knew that she was like a straight up, I mean, she never really took on his mantle. Hoffman straight up did
Yeah.
after he
Well,
died. So
kinda. The thing is, Hoffman was blackmailed by Jigsaw into working for him because he thought he could mold him into his like apprentice.
What did he have on him?
Hoffman's sister was killed by her boyfriend, and he created a fake Jigsaw trap to like pin the murder of that guy on Jigsaw because he wanted revenge on him.
Is Hoffman a hypocrite? Like, 'cause honestly, that's one of the things that I actually liked about Saw 3 is that Amanda Jigsaw reveals that it's like you killed. You're a murderer and he hates murderers,
Yeah.
as he says. We'll get into that. But I did find that interesting that Amanda wasn't really like him. She like pretended to be, and it was
Yeah.
seemingly a means to an end, or even just like him breaking her.
Yeah, that is one of the best parts of Saw X, because I don't know if you know about this, but Saw X is set between the first and the second Saw movies.
It's like a way back prequel, which is so funny. Do they bring Amanda back in that?
Yeah, she's one of the main characters. It's John Kramer and Amanda. They're those two main characters.
I've heard that in Saw 10 they like try to say that like John wasn't that bad. They try to like.
I mean, he did have a moral code, so
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
So another thing that frustrates me about Saw is that like Kramer, the interesting thing about Jigsaw as a character is that Jigsaw is more or less a slasher who like has traps. He has victims. He like kills people the same way that someone like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees does. But those characters are just evil. Most slashers are just evil, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he's a slasher with a motive. He's dying and he hates people that he thinks devalue their life, throw away life, treat it like it doesn't matter when life is so precious to him. My thing with it is that I like that as an idea. My problem is that it's limited. There's that person, the barbed wire, like the razor wire room, for instance. I've always seen that as kind of bullshit, and that's another thing. Does he really expect people to get through it, or does he just want to watch people die? I'm like, there's a strong argument that the latter is true and that it's just all bullshit, but
I actually always had the other impression because I always thought most of the traps were like not that hard to get through if you like stop and think about it.
well, you still have to self-mute.
No, oh, of course, a lot of them you have to self, but that's how far you're willing to go to stay alive. But it's like a lot of them are
course.
just like you don't even have to like if you just stop and think. But obviously, because everyone in the moment is super scared and everything, they start acting out. But like a lot of those ones, like the one that has the timer and the thingy closes over your head, right? That one I always thought like the clock doesn't stop, doesn't start ticking until you unhook that wire. So you can like stop and analyze your situation way before you start moving. So it's like one of those things like if you stay calm and analyze the situation, it's gonna be way easier. But everyone just like, oh my god, freaks out, and then it snaps and the timer starts, and then they have only a 1 minute to do everything they need to do. And I'm always like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like a thing of like I think Jigsaw like does these things like with the idea in mind, like if you don't freak out, you can get out, or if he's just like testing their will, just that. But I don't know. I always thought like there is something about that where it's just like these traps are not unsolvable. I never got the impression that like these traps 100% of the time kill you. And I mean, especially in Saw 3D or Saw 7, however you want to call it, there are quite a few survivors and everything.
I cannot believe that there's actually a Saw 3D. Every franchise has like a 3D movie, like something that was like trying to.
Yeah, it's funny. The Friday the 13th 3D movie is the best one. So
I watched Saw 3. That was the one. So I'd watched the first two movies last year, and then I just watched Saw 3 last night. And that was something that I did like about the ending. That's what Kramer says, is that your traps were unsolvable. And I remember the guy with the. This is another thing, is the people that he goes after. Like I said, so someone who self-harms. That makes perfect sense. He even says it like you drew a blade. And why? For attention. Like self-harm and addiction, like you can those are not black and white areas, so it's not like, but it's one of those makes sense to him things.
yeah, that's what the part of the thing for me, and the later Saw movies I kind of prefer in a way because they don't treat people who
I've
have
heard he just
depression
goes
and
after
addiction,
awful people, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just kind of monsters.
which is a lot better than him going after like people who like have depression or addiction. Like I much prefer that because I'm like I understand from his perspective, but it's not really true. Like if someone is addicted, that's not entirely their fault. Addiction is an illness, just like any other. Like, I know I'm like super woke or whatever, but it's, you know, it's
Well, and isn't the reason in the first movie that like for him kidnapping the main character that he missed his diagnosis, like that he thought he was like negligent,
yeah,
basically that
yeah, exactly.
he
And the way he treated patients was like very dismissive and everything.
yeah. Well, it's all I did laugh at that in three. Like he's like the doctor that he gets to like perform the operation. He's like saying that she's like cold. I'm like, what do you want people to tell you when you have cancer, man? Like it really is that hard. And I'm like, people try to be tame with breaking the news to people, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that that aspect of the motivation in three is probably like the weakest bit, but I like the stuff that they have with the her cheating and everything, and like, you know, not
yes,
appreciating.
that I so the guy with the prison, that was what I was laughing at. Like apparently the guy like had a privileged upbringing, but he kept landing himself in jail. And it's like death. I'm like, sort of can see it, but then I remember like laughing my head off because I'm like, for one, you got like a minute to rip all that shit off you. It's gonna hurt. But I'm like, that last one, I'm like, it's through your jaw. I'm like, wouldn't you have to like rip your own face off to do it? And then the door's welded, and then the key. Because I remember she got the key out from her ribs, and then I was like, what now? And I'm like, and it's like it's too late, and that's what he says is that your traps were unsolvable, and I like that, but my problem, at least with the first three, is that not all the time do they have solid motivations nor victims. Some of them feel weaker than others. There are some where I'm like, I see
Yeah,
this perfectly, and others where it's like, eh.
yeah, I agree with that.
What do you think about the witness? Like, what his name's Jeff, right? In three, what is the deal with that whole thing? Because I was not a fan of the Jeff arc in three. It was weird.
Oh, you mean him forgiving the people who were like complicit in his child's murder?
I mean, like how he acts, like he just the freezer rube. He's like he like delays so long, and then he actually like tries when she's frozen solid.
Well, I think it's very human reactions to like have this like internal struggle of not knowing if he can forgive someone, and when he does, it's too late. I think it's kind of like part of the whole thing with Jigsaw. You need to let these things go, and it's like, oh, you wrestling with that like on your own that causes you to have it, so it's too late. Like these people are already gone. I don't know. Like I think it makes sense, and it's like he does that, but then like he saves the guy with the pig guts, you know, like the judge or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So it's like he still took a while, and it was still hard for him to let go and everything, but he still did it, and he still did it first. Then he later dies, which is funny.
They just needed to kill him.
They did,
He
yeah,
couldn't be in the last scene.
yeah,
He just needed to be deleted from the equation. I'm like,
yeah.
Jesus. So, big question in three. Did Kramer kill the kid? And if he
No.
didn't kill the kid, how the fuck did he know all of what he knew?
What do you
It's just
mean?
like, so he knows a witness that ran away. He knew like who was hit. He knew about, and like the judge isn't too hard.
To be fair, he has Hoffman, and Hoffman is kind of like a cheat code in these movies to like for him knowing
Oh,
anything
like
because
cop.
he's a cop and he has access to a bunch of shit. He's a detective. So he has access to a bunch of like privileged information that he can give Jigsaw. So basically Hoffman. Like Hoffman is kind of an excuse for most of these movies to happen. I don't really mind that as like a plot device, like Hoffman, but it is kind of like, yeah, any question you're like, yeah, probably Hoffman because he has access to police files.
Yeah. Some of that, though, like I said, that last witness, that's one of those, like, if she ran and she didn't testify, then who could have known that other than her, unless maybe she told someone, like, I don't know. Those types of questions, like, I don't really care about. My bigger thing is that is John himself like a consistent character? Is his motive? Because that's what I find the most interesting about these movies. And jumping back actually to Saw 2, I think I preferred Saw 2, even though I think the first Saw is better than Saw 2.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why is because of Matthews and all the scenes he has with Kramer. I'm like, for one, it's a race against time. It's just straight up like they seemingly have him caught. There's a bunch of victims that are being tested right now, and we need to find them. We don't know where they are. Retrospectively, it turns out like that already happened.
Yeah.
I've heard they pull that trick like 3 or 4 more times in the series, and it's like,
There are a few times where it's just like, yeah, it already happened.
but regardless, I really liked their dialogue, and I
Yeah.
like that you explore Jigsaw more as a
Well, and it's
character.
interesting as well because it's just like you just have to follow the rules, and Detective Matthews just wasn't following the rules. It's very funny because it's just like all you had to do was wait and talk for an hour, and he couldn't do it. It's great. I do think like that whole thing is just like because part of the fun of these movies is how much Jigsaw is just a troll because he loves like doing wordplay and shit like that just to like for the sake of messing with his victims. It's kind of like
Well, yeah, I want to play a game. That's how he looks at all this as a game. And he is a petty character as
yeah,
well. You know, he got cancer and he decided to get revenge on the world by like seeking out people that are troubled
yeah,
and putting them through like grotesque traps for his own glee. I find that very interesting, and I can't. You're the one who has seen the rest of the movies
yeah,
and knows how they go. I'm actually curious about Hoffman now that you
yeah,
mentioned that whole fake jigs, because that's interesting to me. The idea that he would cheat and like almost pretend to be Jigsaw to get
yeah.
away with murder. That's
Yeah, he
interesting.
does, and then
So
Jigsaw finds out, and then he blackmails him, and is like, "You're gonna help me with my traps, until I die. Otherwise, everyone will know you're a murderer."
what? Why carry on his work? Like
He
thrill of the
does
kill?
not carry on. There are a bunch of traps. Like most of the Saw sequels after 3 are traps that Jigsaw set before he died, and Jigsaw still has like a way to deliver all this information, everything. So Saw, if I recall correctly, Saw 6, it's the last trap that he had planned for Hoffman. After Hoffman escapes, because there's a whole thing like where he Hoffman betrayed Jigsaw's final wish, and John Kramer's wife, she like gets involved. It's a whole thing.
Wait, she's still wait, what? She's
Yeah,
alive and like and has
yeah,
a role in the
they
movie?
got divorced. Well, they didn't get divorced. They just were separated. She was pregnant, and this like drug addict smashed the door against her stomach, and so their child died. Their relationship was strained after that, and then right after Jigsaw was diagnosed with cancer, and so he started doing the traps. So she left him, but she is a character in the later
Okay.
movies.
I didn't know about those last like shots where you get like flashbacks to showing that he had a wife in Saw 3. I honestly don't think you need anything more than that. It's like what does that tell you? I'm like he was happy at one point
Yeah,
and that's the last thing he dwells on in his last moments. It's interesting.
yeah,
It's funny because I'm like I you were relatively high on your ratings. We joke about number ratings all the time, but you
yeah,
were in like the 7 range. I'm in the like lower 4. I think the first movie is actually like really solid. I mean, it's directed by James Wan
James
and Leigh
Wan. Yeah.
Whannell did that, and they're like top of the ladder for like a lot of horror, like genre horror anyway nowadays. Would you recommend? I mean, this is the thing. Would you recommend continuing watching? Like Kramer's dead after the third. Like you have Hoffman and other apprentices and other like. Is there a purpose in going in? Like, does it stay interesting, reinvent, or like?
If you like Saw 1, it is not a guarantee that you're gonna like Saw 2. They're very different movies. Saw 1 is just like this self contained thriller about these two characters being explored while John Kramer plays with them. From 2 onwards, it's about exploring John Kramer himself more so rather than like the people he is torturing. The people he's torturing kind of become secondary.
Well, that's why I think that Saw 2 is a worse film than the first Saw, because even though I love all the scenes with Matthew and Oos and Kramer, the scenes in the actual house, I'm like, I don't care about these people. They're all kind of idiots slash awful anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
like, and retrospectively, Amanda's her own thing. But these are movies that definitely feel like they have a lot of cannon fodder characters.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
Saw 3 was definitely one of those. So.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing is, if you watch Saw 2 and you enjoyed that, then you're probably going to enjoy every subsequent movie because they're all that same type of movie, like exploring Jigsaw as a character more so, or like Hoffman as a character, or Jigsaw's wife. I completely forgot her name. Like a bunch of these characters are explored. A bunch of the detectives that were searching for Kramer. If you enjoy 2, you're probably going to enjoy the rest of them, But if you like one and don't like two, then I would say just like don't continue watching the franchise. There is a cutoff point. It's Saw 3D because like the story ends there. That's the seventh movie, and that's like where the story ends. Hoffman dies.
Well, yeah, that's the like last one. Wait, Hoffman dies in that one? I thought
He
he was.
does.
Well, I've heard that like they bait his death in Saw 10, don't they? Like,
No, they don't bait his death in Saw 10. He's
no,
just
I mean
in the
he's still
post credit
he's
scene.
still somehow alive. Or
No,
yeah, there's
no,
like a recording from him, or
no. He just shows up in a post credit scene, but that was like a flashback anyway.
but flashback. So okay,
Yeah, Saw 10
uh,
is set between Saw 1 and 2, and he just shows up in a post credit scene, I think, because they couldn't get the actor for like a bigger part in the movie. So they just wrote like a cameo for him. I think that was it. It does not really, it's just like a regular trap. There's nothing too spectacular about it. But anyway, up until Saw 3D, it's like one continuous story where it's all exploring John Kramer, how he pulled off the traps, why he targeted all these people, and how they're like all connected in some way. Like the more you watch the Saw movies, the more you realize the people in every single one of these movies was actually connected to the other movies. It's kind of crazy how much like it's all people related to the same thing, and it kind of makes Jigsaw's motives a little clearer than just like randomly getting bad people. At the same time, he does like just like get people who are bad or he thinks need to value their life or whatever. But those are like the ones that happen off screen. The ones that happen in the movies are usually people who are like very important, because these movies have a big thing about the reveal in the third act. When the fucking
yes, it's
Zep
got
theme
like
plays,
ba,
it
ba,
is a
ba.
ba, 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 the go. Oh,
It's
that
and
theme
they
is so
all
fucking
think that they're
amazing.
the fucking greatest. That they're like pulling off the twist. Like, oh, never would have seen that coming. Banger. And it's like,
Yeah.
I, for better or worse, but they these movies definitely want to build to a huge
Yeah.
crescendo because the first movie did it so well. So
Exactly. So it's
uh,
usually just like, oh, it's connected somehow. Oh, this happened before or whatever.
just to interject on that, a detail that I laughed at in Saw 3 was the cop character with the rib cage trap. When I first watched it, I'm like, what was the point of that character? I'm like, that was 10 minutes of screen time. You introduced her, she got kidnapped and then killed. Like, it sets up an Amanda trap. Like, yeah, sure. But then I realized she was in the other two
She
movies. I'm
was,
like,
yeah.
I'd forgotten about her. I'm like, there's like a whole history with that character. And then
Yeah.
killed at the beginning of Saw 3. I'm like, there's a whole lore and timeline and like connections between characters. It's so funny.
There is. Dude, if you watch Saw to Saw 3D, it is insane how much all of these characters are somehow related to each other. It's kind of crazy.
Some of them seem a bit ridiculous. I feel like as it goes on, I'm sure the stretches are gonna just become more implausible. But it's Saw. These movies are a little heightened.
None of that really bugged me while I was watching, so I'm not sure. But I'm usually more lenient with these kinds of things. I'm usually like very chill with like meeting movies halfway. Just being like, sure, if you say so. I don't know. And then we get to Jigsaw, which is the only one that I rated lower than a 6, I think. I think it's the only one I rated like a 5 out of 10.
So what is the deal with Jigsaw? Because you were mentioning it with those, like, this was like a reboot for one. I think this is when they changed the aspect ratio from that, and like
Yeah.
the camera looks
Yeah, it looks
crisper.
like an actual movie, which is a shame. Like I mentioned it to you, right? Like I think the earlier films, they look like an episode of a 2000s TV show
Yes.
that like ran for 20 episodes a season. Like actually they don't even just look like that. They feel like 6 episode arc from a TV show from the early 2000s. Like it reminds me so much of Prison Break, the way it's edited, the way it's shot, the fucking grimy, gross color grading, like all of that just feels so Prison Break, which I love that vibe for those movies. Like the fucking 16:9 aspect ratio makes it look cheaper, but I kind of like that. And then later on, they try
Yeah.
to actually make them look like movies, and it's just like I don't know, it loses a little bit of its charm, I guess.
Well, like I said from the beginning, this was low budget, just working in a small room, trying to make the most with a very small. A lot of horrors like that,
Yeah.
trying to limit how much money you have. We've talked about this, that horror on a business level is the best genre for filmmaking, and I like that they stuck with that identity. They never like forgot where they came from. But like I'm looking at this, and it's like, yes, this looks good, but it also looks plainer. It looks just more normal, generic. It's
It
like,
does look more
Saw.
generic.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so this guy, it's like another doctor is the villain of this, and he
So Jigsaw, the thing is, right? They're baiting the entire time the Jigsaw is alive, and we see like Jigsaw's whole trap playing out, and we actually see John Kramer with Tobin Bell and everything. And then at the end, it's the reveal is just that this dude who's a doctor who works in the morgue, he like created the exact same trap Jigsaw had made like 20 years prior or whatever. I don't know how long prior, 15, 20 years before he died, with just similar people because he survived that original trap, which is a whole thing. So basically, he was the reason Jigsaw died of cancer because he changed like the files basically. Like he put the wrong label on.
nefariously or
No,
just
it's just
accidentally.
accidentally. And so Jigsaw put him in a trap, and then he was supposed to die, but Jigsaw just like got him out because he was like he forgave him because like you shouldn't die because of an accident.
I've heard of that, and that's like, dude, fuck off. That he's killed people for that kind of a thing before. But
Yeah,
you just forgave him because he made a mistake. Like, dude, what?
yeah. And then after that, he joins like fucking Jigsaw's little group of apprentices. So he was involved apparently
Amanda
throughout the
style, one of
yeah, he
those.
was involved throughout the entire like other films off screen, even though he was never mentioned. But that's whatever, I don't mind that. And then he recreated the exact same trap that he was trapped in back then that he survived to be able to trick the police to make them think that Jigsaw came back to life somehow, that he faked his
Jesus.
death. So Jigsaw is actually dead. They never bring him back. He is actually for real
Yeah.
dead.
Which, I mean, credit where credit is due. That considering how many times they've flashed back and that they keep bringing him back to
Yeah.
show him in other scenes, because like you should keep Tobin Bell around, but
I mean, he is the star. This franchise is all about Tobin Bell.
yeah, but they stuck with it. They
Yeah.
killed him off in
They could have in
3,
the
and
third
he has
movie and
not
they
come
managed
back.
to make like 7 more movies. So it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I don't know if you agree, but I do think that Saw really would have worked better as a one-off. I think it,
Oh yeah.
or even just like a trilogy. Like
I do think
I
so.
think you could have made a tight detective murder mystery, like Seven style. Like, and
Yeah,
I've
for
heard
sure.
Spiral tried to do that and
Yeah,
didn't
I'll
do
get
too
to
well.
Spyro soon. But so the whole thing for me is that because I've been watching a lot of these franchises recently just out of curiosity. I watched some I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and then the 2025 I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I watched the new one in theaters, and I was gonna watch the first one before I did that, but that was a weird movie.
Yeah, it's
The last
not
one.
as good as the first one. And I've been watching the Scream movies. I only have one left. And the way I see these things is like if you want, you don't have to keep watching. Like that's the
Yeah,
way I see it. Is like if you think the story should have ended at a certain point, you can just not watch anymore. So, and I've been watching the Friday the 13th movies and the Elm Street movies, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I just feel that way. I'm like I'm watching these movies because I don't really care. Like, oh, if they're bad, I can just like not count them as like canon or like important in my mind. If I ever get back to want to rewatch movies from these franchises, I'm gonna rewatch the good ones.
well, I mean, it's kind of how I feel about the MCU as well, and we've
Hmm.
talked about that. Like, just you can stop if you want, and you can
Yeah,
stick with the movies that you do get something out
yeah, that
of.
you
So,
actually like. Yeah,
uh,
because it doesn't need to be this thing of just like, oh my god, they ruined the franchise. It's just like if you don't want these new Saw movies, you don't really have to watch them. And like there are many good cutoff points for Saw. After 1, after 3, after 4, and after 6, after 7, like those are all good cutoff points. I probably Saw as a franchise work better if it wasn't a franchise. Just the first one, good movie. But I'm like, I like the sequels, so I don't really care. Like if it would have worked better, because it's like it doesn't change my perspective on the first one. The first one is still like a fun, good movie, and the other ones are still also like very fun movies. So even though I agree with you that it would be better off probably as like a one-off and no sequels or whatever, these types of franchises like Friday the 13th and all these like, oh, they do one, it's
but
successful, they make a bunch of them. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's kind of fun that these franchises keep going, and they don't need to have this like super elaborate excuse to why the characters are coming back, to why Jason's alive or everything. They just be like, yeah, somehow he survives. Now let's tell a new story within the similar setting because it's fun. And I say this, I don't really like the Friday the 13th movies, but it's just like the best example for this franchisification thing.
Well, honestly, I think you were mentioning Halloween and that you eventually want to get to
Oh yeah, yeah.
Halloween and that like the new trilogy that David Gordon Green made. I laugh at that because I originally that was the same was the case for Halloween. It's like, first Halloween is the best. Like, Carpenter was still involved in two. Things jump the shark, and then eventually, like, you have the kicking Michael Myers out of the window. But I don't like the new trilogy, and the reason why I don't is that they got pretentious. They think they're so clever and so thematically poignant, and I don't think that Saw has ever well, that's the thing is that Jigsaw in the recent stuff, other than maybe 10, I've heard 10 felt more kind of return to form. And again, they
Yeah,
use
I'll
the
get
title
to that.
Saw in
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, I'll get back. I'll get to that. There's a lot I want to say about the the last three Saw movies, but yeah.
Yeah, so Jigsaw's rough, the villain isn't that good, and it's just annoying because it baits his.
It's not even that the villain. I mean, the villain is whatever. I mean, it's just like a jig. It's not any Jigsaw disciple is not going to be as cool or as fun or as scary
No.
as Jigsaw himself, as John Kramer, which is fine, you know? And part of the thing that I like about Spyro is that it wasn't trying to be a new John Kramer. It was someone inspired by John Kramer, but who has his own motives and was targeting people that he thought deserved this. It's just like inspired. Like that's better. Like it's his own character, and he was actually really well explored in Spyro. I actually think Spyro is kind of underrated.
So that kind of a thing happens in comic books, like characters get killed off, and then
Hmm.
a new character just picks up the mantle
Yeah,
and is that character. It's kind of like that with you could just have someone be Jigsaw, just
yeah,
choose to set up traps, and I'm like, that's fine.
yeah.
And I think you were I don't know if you put it in your letterbox, but it seemed like you were implying there were some relevant points to modern context with like violence, inspiring violence kind of a thing.
Yes, it Spyro is very, very critical of cops. Like it's kind of crazy. I fucking love it. As the woke person that I am, I love how much it hates cops. And it makes sense, Chris Rock pitched the movie and he, wanted to make a story about criticizing police brutality and all that. So it's like I like that a lot. But anyway, with Jigsaw, right? One of the problems with that movie, the traps are so stupid. Like, because I think every other movie, the traps make some logical sense in terms of like how they're set up. They're not like this extremely intricate. Like they're kind of intricate, but they're not like
Heard-
impossible to imagine being made.
I've heard the merry-go-round, like some of the mechanics of some of the traps get weird, but by and large, most of them kind of make sense still.
Yeah,
Like
the merry-go-round's fine.
it is. I've heard it's complicated as shit.
I don't remember anything sticking out about it. It's just like you need to press two buttons at once to make the shotgun fire upwards instead of at the person, and then you just keep spinning. Yeah, no, it's not that complicated. But anyway, the traps in Jigsaw are impossible. Like none of them would actually work.
I've heard they're grody. They fulfill in the blood and guts, and like they
Mhm.
seem. But I've heard how they actually work are dumb.
The traps in Jigsaw feel like magic, which is something that frustrated me because Jigsaw is a character that has never felt like this like omnipotent, like omniscient, like oh I can do anything. He always felt like no, he has an engineering degree and he has a bunch of people who help him. It's plausible. Like even though the things are like obviously no human would ever make these things. It was like I can buy into it. There's one where it's like, oh, you need to inject this person with the correct syringe, and if you do, your shackles will be released. And it's like, how do you know if it's the correct syringe? Do you have a fucking device inside of her body? Like, it just makes no sense to me. That was something that frustrated me. And the other thing was that the traps didn't seem like Jigsaw traps. They felt, and it would have made sense if it was just the guy inspired by Jigsaw, but he said he copied one for one the original Jigsaw trap for these people again.
The original jig. What
Basically,
was the original? The bear? I thought.
no, 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 no. The original as in because there are flashbacks. Like half of the movie is told is the trap that Jigsaw made like a bunch of years prior. We just don't know that it's not happening concurrently to the story because the way they edit it. And then at the end, it's revealed that the guy who survived the original trap, like I told you, he remade the exact same trap just to bait the police into thinking Jigsaw was back. So like the original trap was actually made by Jigsaw, which is the whole thing. And if it was just like someone inspired and made these traps and it was like not as cool or interesting or not as like actually giving people a chance to survive and everything, it was like that would have been fine. But because it's not, it feels like because it is like something that Jigsaw came up with originally, it does feel a little bit like okay, so you're not understanding Jigsaw that well. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I felt that way when I watched Scream 5 too, where it's like once the people like involved with these stories stop being involved, it doesn't feel the same. Like Wes Craven obviously died after Scream 4, and Scream 5 just does not feel the same way as the other Scream movies. And I'm not even a huge fan of the Scream movies. I don't really like them. I think I like two of them only.
I want to get into Scream at some point, but one of the reasons why I haven't is that I'm just like the first movie. It's like trying to franchise The Cabin in the Woods. I'm like, this is all about making fun
Yeah.
of horror movies and all the isms. I'm like, "Ugh, if you
Yeah,
stretch this out, I feel like it'll get played out."
yeah. Part of the thing with Scream is that they make fun of like these sequel cliches as well. So it's like when they get to the second, oh, the second this happens, this happens. Oh, in the third one, when you're finishing off a trilogy, anyone can die, even the protagonist, because they say that kind of thing to be like, oh, now Sydney might die. So
Be sure, yeah.
and then, Scream 5 is the whole thing is that it's a legacy sequel, and so it felt
Yeah.
very cringe the way they did it in 5, because it feels like it's saying, like, oh, legacy sequels, they're done so shit nowadays, and then it just does the thing it's criticizing, whereas in the other ones, it was, like, actually subverting the whole tropes thing to make fun of them, so, I don't know.
Yeah, that thing about Scream, it's like, yeah, why can we make fun of horror movies? Because they made a good movie and they
Yeah.
put their money where their mouth is. Like you cannot give subpar when you're making fun of a genre.
Exactly. Which is funny because I actually think Scream 4 is a better movie about legacy sequels than Scream 5, which literally,
Yeah. When Craven came back for that.
yeah, like they literally call itself a legacy sequel inside the movie. Anyway, Scream is a whole other thing. It feels like Jigsaw as a movie doesn't really understand Jigsaw as a character and doesn't really understand why the traps he made before were cool or interesting. And especially like the main big trap is like this huge like spiral thing that just like fucking like swirls with blades and cuts someone like that's not a Jigsaw thing. That's inescapable. That's not something Jigsaw would use.
He doesn't just straight up put people in a blender. Not really. There has to be some out.
Yeah, it quite literally was a blender. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, so that's why I think Jigsaw is the worst one. I still like it. I still think it's fun. And it has something interesting to say. Like, not as interesting or as good as the other ones, but I still, like, enjoy it. It's the whole thing. I enjoy all the Saw movies. It's just Jigsaw is the least Saw movie of the Saw movies. So, I don't know. It's the movie that I'm like, if I were to rewatch the franchise, I'd probably skip Jigsaw. And the other ones I'd probably rewatch like easily because I like all of them. And then there's Spiral, which is like very, very weird, very different because it's, they try to reinvent the franchise. And I kind of understand the idea because with Jigsaw, they were sure trying to write off the coattails of Jigsaw himself and of Tobin Bell. With Spiral, Tobin Bell was not in the film. It's the only film that Tobin Bell was not like a part of at all. So yeah. So the whole thing is that it's a criticism of like police brutality and just like police in general. The way they justify a lot of their actions just to because oh, we're cops and we need to protect each other because we're cops, we're all brothers and everything. It's very cool and I actually think it's done quite well. So I like that. It is kind of hilarious that Samuel L. Jackson is in the movie though. Like he does not feel like he belongs in that movie. He feels like he belongs in like a comedy, but everyone else is playing it straight. It's so funny.
Well, that's what I remembered I was gonna say. I've heard there's tone problems with this fucking movie that like, and it's Chris Rock. It's like Chris Rock is a comedian. It's like, but
I
he's not
actually
really
feel
trying to.
like most of the comedy is fine. It's just that Samuel L. Jackson is playing it like he's in one of what's the name of that movie that he was in with fucking Brie Larson? Unicorn Store. 2017.
Oh, I never watched.
Yeah, he
I
feels like.
heard
Oh,
nothing good.
to be fair, I probably could have made a better comparison to just his character in Glass. Probably would have made more sense. Glass? No, what's it? Unbreakable. Sorry, I haven't watched Glass yet, but yeah, Unbreakable. Probably a better comparison. He's playing the character like he's in Unbreakable, but everyone else is playing it like super straight and gritty. So it just feels very off because it's like that's not how you should be talking, Seb. Like I don't know. I love Samuel Jackson,
Yeah.
great actor, but it's just like it just feels a little like he doesn't belong in the movie, and it's kind of hard to latch onto his character, especially for it, because he's not like, and he's not really fully engaging with the film like physically, because it's a Saw movie, and there is a point where he's in a
Yeah.
trap, and it's like it doesn't feel like he's putting like his performance into it. It doesn't feel like he's actually trapped. You know what I mean? And obviously he's getting on in age. It was 2021, so like 4 years ago. So he was like 70 when they filmed. So
Yeah.
like I get it, but it's and obviously they needed him because of like star power to sell the movie.
Yeah. They wanted like and Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've
So
heard
yeah.
most people are just like, nah.
Yeah, no, he does not fit in the movie. But everything else about it I do kind of like really enjoy. It is just like the character is just like, look, he was inspired by Jigsaw, but one of the things that they say, which is funny, there's a line which is very funny, like, no, this isn't Jigsaw. Jigsaw never went after cops, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He went after cops like a bunch of
Exactly.
times. Like that line was super funny to me, but it's because they were like setting up that the character was going specifically after cops. But it is interesting what it has to say about police brutality and the whole corrupt system of police in America, and I think it does it quite well. I don't know. I think it's like as a one-off, I kind of like love it because it doesn't need to be connected to the rest of the Saw universe, and it is, but like very faintly, just like oh, just a copycat killer, and that's basically it. They barely like mention John Kramer himself, whereas all the other movies are like very reliant on John Kramer as like this figure for all the other movies.
But at that point, it may as well be Chris Rock, police brutality, serial killer movie, but it wouldn't be Saw. But
Well,
is it not that divorced from it? Like it's still sort of.
I mean, they do mention a few times, like Jigsaw and everything. Like the killer leaves tapes, and like it's inspired. I don't know. Feel like if you're gonna like reinvent the franchise, I feel like this is a pretty decent way of like, oh, it's a copycat, and we're gonna use that copycat to make like a certain like political or like social commentary thing with the movie. Like I don't know. I don't think it needs to be like disconnected just because it's like to like not be part of the franchise. I think it makes enough sense to like keep the franchise alive in that way. I feel like that's a better reinvention than just like Saw X, which I do like, but it's just like, oh, we're just doing a random trap just set between the first two movies because we need Tobin Bell alive. Because they didn't know how, because there was no way to continue the story. After Saw 3D, the story was complete. So, I think it is a better way to deal with the franchise than Saw X did it. But I don't know.
They gonna make an 11th or
They had
I
plans to,
would.
but because Saw X bombed, they canceled. So, yeah.
Oh, Saw X bomb. Oh, well, yeah, post COVID. Damn.
Yeah,
Well, has it
2023.
been diminishing returns since then? I mean, horror was on the rise in the early
I
2000s, so.
I don't know how well Jigsaw did. Let me check. Jigsaw. It grows. Jesus. No,
Wait,
102.
Saw 10 didn't bomb. It made 125.3 million off a $13 million budget.
Yeah, but I remember reading that Saw 11 was
I think it
canceled.
was. Yeah, I think it was canceled. I don't know due to disagreements between the producers.
Okay, so Jason Blum bought the rights to Saw. So now it's gonna be a Blumhouse thing.
Oh, moving forward, but none of them have. Wait, yeah, I was about to say it was like Twisted Pictures or whatever was and
In
Lionsgate.
Lionsgate, yeah.
That would be interesting.
That
Jason
would be
Blum being
interesting.
the producer, being the like creative head behind that, and not to mention he has a good relationship with James Wan. Maybe
Yeah.
he could come back like at a executive or regular producer role, or
What
even writer. You never
wasn't
know.
Wolfman also
That was Leigh
Blumhouse?
Whannell, right? Or
Yeah, it was. That's
which
why I
again,
mentioned.
they're
Was that a Blumhouse film? I actually think
yes.
Wolfman is like not a bad film.
Oh, really? I heard middling things.
It is very
I never
middling. I'll
watched it
say
in
that.
theaters.
It has potential. Production companies, Blumhouse, yeah.
It is
So
Blumhouse.
it
Yeah.
is James Wan and Leigh Whannell are working with Blumhouse. That's fun.
10 movies later, maybe some sort of a collaboration.
Yeah.
I don't know what they could add moving forward because there's been 10.
That's the whole thing for
Jesus.
me is that after Saw 3D, there is nothing to add. So they're just like, and with Spiral, they try to reinvent the franchise to make it a little like have something new to say. With Saw X, it just felt like when you watch Saw 1 and you think, oh, a sequel to this. At least the way I imagined it. It would be that the sequel would be just like another one-off trap exploring another group of people, who don't value life and whatever. But instead, it's like this interesting character study of John Kramer himself. And the traps and the people in the traps are like kind of secondary. And like I said, from Saw 2 to Saw 3D, the focus is way more on John Kramer and Hoffman than it is on the actual trapped people, the victims. I don't know. When I watched Saw 1, I thought every movie would be like Saw 1, where it'd just be like John Kramer traps a group of people, like two or more people, and explores their characters, and that's that. Like, that's where the franchise would go, a bit more episodic, more like anthology like. But the franchise is like super interconnected and has this whole like interwoven story, which is just like not what I expected, which is not bad, it's just not what I expected. Saw X is exactly the type of sequel you expect after watching Saw 1, where it's just like a one off,
A
like
one-off return to
but with a
form-ish.
bunch of like it just feels a lot like the first Saw movie because it's just like you grab a group of people and they did one trap with them and explore their characters and that's that. There's like
Well,
the big twist in the movie the moment they play the Zep track is just like, oh, I actually planned this the whole time, you were now trapped in a room, like that's that. Whereas in the other movies it's like this guy was connected to the person from the first movie that did this thing, you know what I mean? Like it is way less interconnected, it's way less like whoa. So it feels a little less grandiose. It's still fine. I like Saw X, but it is a lot more like episodic. That's the way I would describe Saw X. Is episodic. So it makes sense that like they would do that moving on with the franchise after Spiral bombed. I kind of would have hoped for something more interesting after Spiral because I actually think Spiral is a more interesting idea of how to work the franchise than Saw X. I don't know.
well, I'm telling you, like Matthews and Kramer in Saw 2, that was when I watched Saw 2, I was like, this is what I think is interesting.
Hmm.
Like A plot with the cop and Kramer, B plot with people trapped.
Yeah.
I think that makes perfect sense for the franchise, and
Yeah, that's how they usually
it
do it.
allows you to explore John as a character, and
Yeah,
John is probably the most interesting part of the series in
for
large
sure.
part. Like I said, the slasher with the motive. It's interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I like Saw X too. To be fair, it's fun.
how would you rank them, you think? So, like Jigsaw is definitely at the bottom
Yeah,
from what you
I
described.
actually made a letterbox list, so I can check right now
Oh,
exactly how I rank them.
I did like a lot of elements of 3. I think Saw 2 is my favorite, though. It's the funniest thing. All of them, like, I like certain elements and others I don't like,
Hmm.
but the
Yeah.
best parts of 2 are my favorite parts of the franchise, at least from what I've seen. By the way, the cop who gets, like, the ribcage trap was its own thing, but I was a little disappointed that they just killed Matthews. It's like, yeah, he killed the guy from the first movie and killed him. It's like, he broke his foot off and like got like nothing. Donnie Wahlberg. I'm like, oh, okay,
They do bring back references to that in later movies. They actually bring back
okay.
Wahlberg. These movies are so interconnected. You have no idea. It's very funny.
Like I was joking when you mentioned about Hoffman and all that. And like I said, the cop from who gets killed in the ribcage trap. Like, there's a whole lore. I
Yeah.
imagine like the wiki is like so comp. There must be like a timeline someone's drawn.
Yeah, it is very fun. I think it's very fun thinking about how it all fits together. I think it's like they had a ton of fun like plotting out all of that. Anyway, my ranking is and the ratings range from 7 out of 10 to like 5 out of 10. So like I don't think these are like masterpieces or anything and I don't think any of them are like bad. It's Saw 3, 6, 1.
3 is your favorite of
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then it's
Okay.
6, 1, X, 2, 5, Spiral, 4, 3D, and Jigsaw.
Okay.
There's a big difference from Saw 3D to Jigsaw, though, I think. To be fair,
Like
I
that's
didn't love Saw 3D. It was one of the ones that like, oh, because it had to like complete the franchise, but because there's so little Jigsaw in it, because it was more like Hoffman is on the run, and so he needs to figure a way out from the conundrum he's in. It was less fun. It felt less like a Saw movie, so that's why it's there. But it still has some pretty fun things, and it has the returning element of Dr. Lawrence from the first film. So
all right. Well,
fun
this has been an
franchise.
interesting one because yeah, you watched way more than me, obviously. Like I'd only watched the first three, but I feel like we kind of still got a little bit of a discussion out of the wider franchise,
Yeah.
and I am curious to check some of these out because I do like the first three. They're just in general, I think I like look at them as like slightly worse movies than you do, but I still think they have good. I do not think any like of the first three are bad movies necessarily. It's
Uh-huh.
just some elements work better than others, and maybe some restructure. Like I really feel like Amanda could have been a knock out of the park character had certain things been restructured.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not the biggest fan of like the twist from two and just not revealing. I mean, I don't think it was worth it when there was more you could have done with her as a character, but it's an interesting franchise
I
and
would
I
have
should watch
hoped
more.
for her to be more of a factor. Well, and it's why I kind of like that the sequels actually bring her back sometimes in the flashbacks and everything, like actually having her. And like I said, she's one of the main characters in Saw X. She's like at actual like she is alongside Jigsaw doing the whole traps, and like she has actual character in that. So it's like I kind of like that in the sequels.
The actress who plays her is a bit much in Saw 3, and I she was doing her damnedest. She did a pretty good job, but I would be curious what she'd be like in Saw X.
You would have hoped that she'd be more of a factor in terms of like just being a character, but because in two she's revealed to be working with him, and in three she dies, it's like that's kind of a waste. But they do bring her back in a lot of flashbacks from 4 to 7, and she is obviously a huge part in 10. So I don't know. I think they do her justice after she dies.
Well, and they're making up for lost ground in Saw 3 because they have a bunch of flashbacks with her. They're like, see, they did have a connection. I'm like, well, why could we have gotten this in two? And the answer is because for the twist. And it's like, damn it. I it's just, she is interesting and like an interesting apprentice character, but the the structure of like the trilogy, if you look at the first three, especially for Amanda as a character, it's weird and
Well, it's
maybe it
part
could have
of
been
why I
optimized.
like the franchise, because I actually think it fills a lot of the gaps between these movies quite well. Learning more about what happened in between them and how each character was involved, and like Hoffman being such a huge part. I don't know. I think it does it well. Just to be like, hey, these are the gaps. You know, Amanda, she did this off screen, but I don't know. I think there's something interesting about that.
I would recommend Saw. This is like kind of a spiraling, ha ha ha, spiraling the entire franchise discussion. And like I said, I've only seen the first three, but if you've never checked out Saw and you haven't checked it out because you've just heard torture porn reputation, like Kramer dies early on, a million apprentices or whatever, these movies like are more than just torture porn, blood
Yeah.
and guts. Like there's something there that's interesting, and all of them are like kind of race against the clocks, like somewhat mysteries, somewhat detective stories. It's an interesting franchise. Like you said, you don't have to keep watching. There's a reason why I stopped after Saw 2 is like, hey, I could watch more around Halloween time, but I'm like, I don't really care. But
Hmm.
I'm glad that I've watched a couple of the Saw movies because it's a franchise that's more than the worst of its reputation.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I do think I do really enjoy them. I think I don't know, the way I see movies, I very much like to meet movies halfway. So I'm just like I'm willing to go along for the ride, and it takes a lot for for a movie to completely lose me when I'm watching it. And I don't think any of these movies like completely lose me. I think Jigsaw comes close, but I think I'm still like I have fun with all of them. And if you're just like a fan of really good like special effects, a very good gore and horror, I think it does it really well. And all of them have like an interesting story to them. I think the two that have the least to say are Saw 3D and X, not X, sorry, Saw 3D and
Jigsaw.
Jigsaw. But the other ones, I think they all have like they are all trying to do and say something that I think is interesting, even if it's not like the most like in-depth criticism of like social commentary or whatever, because it's really not like a lot of them. With the fucking, like I said, him going after like drug addicts and people with depression. It's just like, okay, buddy, chill out. um but yeah, I don't know. I recommend these movies. I think they're worth watching. And yeah, like I said, you can stop at any point if you feel like, you've had enough. Like if you feel the story doesn't need to continue, you don't need to be like a completionist and watch all of them. There are many good cutoff points for the franchise. Um, it is interesting. The one I talked the least about is four. But the reason being, the fourth movie is one where Jigsaw is trying to recruit someone to carry on his legacy, and he puts that person through a bunch of tests. And basically, the test at the end is like, you should let these people die because they they deserve it. They've not fulfilled their will to live. Which, by the way, Detective Matthews is alive. That he shows up in four. He's put in another trap, and the whole thing is like, oh, this person should learn by the end to pass the test, to think like Jigsaw, to put make these traps for people because they deserve to be put in these traps. They deserve to be judged, and if they pass, then
But it's not Hoffman in 4? It's
Hoffman
someone
Hoffman
else?
is the
Or
one who set up the whole traps, all the traps. This person is just someone he wanted to recruit to become the next him. Hoffman is just like Jigsaw's goon, basically.
Hoffman did that, or Jigsaw did it and Hoffman set the traps up for Kramer to
Exactly. So Kramer, like from
what?
from 4 to 7, from 4 to 6, the trap. Actually, I think 7 too. The traps are all like designed by Jigsaw and all like thought by him, and Hoffman was just the one who set those up after he died.
Carrying it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's still like he needed to fulfill that before he was completely like let go by Jigsaw. I mean, Jigsaw literally says in the fourth one to Hoffman, like, "Did you think you were gonna go untested, detective?" There's a whole thing like, yeah, he still needs to keep doing this shit, otherwise it's gonna be
Well,
fucked.
legitimately, I want to watch the movies that have Hoffman in it because when you the whole he set up a fake Jigsaw trap to commit a murder, that's fascinating actually. That's
Mm.
perfect blackmail, and that's exactly like cop in the corner at that point. It's like that's interesting, but
Yeah.
it's not as interesting of a character as Kramer himself, but I could see doing a lot with Hoffman depending on the execution.
But yeah, the point of the fourth one is like, oh, I'm gonna recruit it, but then he fails the test anyway, um, and so he dies by the end. So it's kind of like a filler movie. It's kind of how I see it, because it's like, oh, the point was to get a new Jigsaw. It's like, oh, that's how we're gonna carry the franchise forward. But he dies at the end because he failed. All he needs to do was do nothing, which is a similar thing to 3 with Detective Matthews, that he just needed to sit there and talk, which is it's cool. So like 4 is fun, but it has that aspect of it where it's just like it doesn't feel like it really matters in the grand scheme of things because the ending kind of like nullifies it. So that's why this is the one I talk about the least, but it's still very fun. Rounding back, my point being, I recommend Saw. I like the franchise. I like all the movies, the different levels, and I don't know, man. I think there's a lot interesting here, and I like that the franchise isn't just tied to Leigh Whannell and James Wan. Obviously, Leigh Whannell, is still involved with the first 3, and the guy who directed most of them. What's his name? Darren Lynn Bousman. Bousman?
Yeah, yeah.
Bousman. I think it's Bousman. He's involved in like most of them. He even did Saw X as well. So wait, he didn't do Saw X. He did Spiral. I got this two confused. So he did Spiral, not Saw X. I don't know who directed Saw X. Kevin Grotchurch. Oh, he did Saw 3D and Saw 6. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. It's a fun franchise. I think it carries. I think it loses a bit of its charm and a little bit of its identity, especially after 7, but it's still fun. And I don't know, if you're a fan of horror and like psychological horror and everything, I think it's a very, very well made franchise for that. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Anything you've seen like recently? Any like shows or movies or like what's come out recently that's been like what's in theaters that's
I
getting
watched Now You
buzz?
See Me 4, to be fair. That was a very fun movie. I
Oh,
love that movie. So much fun. I love
I
not
don't.
fourth, sorry,
Wait,
3.
3. Yeah, who could know? Who could know how many fucking movies they've made because they The first one is 2012, right? Like
Yeah,
Jesus.
then
It's like
2016.
what are we doing? I watched the first two. The second movie is really weird. Worth it or like
Oh, it's
just
definitely
kind
worth it.
of a
It's so much fun. I
goofy.
love that movie. It's so over the top and stupid, but in a fun way. It's also just like very woke. So I'm just like, hell yeah. I'm excited for the next one. I enjoyed it. I don't know. There's not much to say. It's just like, yeah, it's fun. Fucking blockbuster fun. With like some magic tricks, a bunch of them don't make sense and all that. I've also been watching, I mentioned the Friday the 13th movies and the Elm Street movies. I am a big fan of the Elm Street movies. I watched the first four. I love all of them. Four is like by far the worst because it's like extremely stupid. Like extremely stupid. The story, like the screenplay is awful. But the special effects are so fucking good. The directing, the cinematography, all like most of the like kills and everything are just so fucking awesome. And like you can kind of excuse the bad story and the bland characters. The fourth one doesn't really have anything to say. The first three are like very well made metaphors for like either abuse or like the second one is all like Freddy Krueger represents internalized homophobia, which I'm like, what an interesting idea for a horror movie in the 80s. Obviously, they don't fully commit to it. The character is straight by the end, but it's like I can read between the lines. The movie was very much trying to make that character seem gay. I love the Elm Street movies. I've been having a ton of fun watching those. Way more than the Friday the 13th ones, which I've not been a huge fan of. I think I like
Well,
two of the Friday the 13th movies, and I've watched like seven.
well, it's hilarious because that was similar to Saw, where I'd heard the first movie isn't even that good, and that two is the one that has Jason as the main villain anyway, and that it's all just killing a bunch of people, like blood and guts.
The best one is three by far. And the thing is with two, he doesn't even have the hockey mask. It's a fucking like the fucking Batman, the Scarecrow, the Batman villain. Basically that he has a bag
Yeah,
over his head.
like
But
balaclava,
no,
what?
it's just a bag over his
Like
head.
burlap, like
Yeah,
just
exactly. Burlap sack. Yeah, exactly. Basically. Yeah. And then in the third one, which is the best one, he gets finally the hockey mask. Honestly, I would just say just like if you were to watch Friday the 13th, just watch the third one and not any other one. I don't know.
huh.
The thing is, the first two are very boring. The characters are very boring. Like the story is not that interesting, but the kills and the special effects are so good that it's
Yeah.
kind of just like worth watching. And then a lot of the others, like even the special effects aren't that good. So
Yeah, that's the only reputation that I've heard is that there's really grotesque, grody kills, and it's that movie you pop in with your chums like when you're like 17 or whatever,
and you're
just like,
high,
hey,
yeah,
let's watch Friday the 13th. Yeah, exactly. Like, and there's fun in that, but they've made like 10 Friday the
yeah.
13th. Like, what are we doing, guys?
But
So,
yeah, the third one is like an actual good movie, and I think what was the other good one? Fifth or sixth is also like an actually good movie. Not as good as three, but oh yeah, A New Beginning. That movie's garbage. I gave that movie a half a star. Yeah, six. Jason Lives. That's the other one that's pretty good. I'm gonna finish the franchise just because I committed myself to it. And it's like I said with Saw, you know, uh, I can just like whenever I go back to this franchise, I'm only gonna watch three. I'm gonna go watch six. I'm not gonna watch any of the ones I don't like. So it doesn't need to be this whole thing of like, oh my god, they ruined the franchise. Um, and Elm Street. Probably if I were to rewatch it, I probably would watch four again, even though it has some of the best visual special effects and like, kills in the whole franchise. And it's fascinating. The Elm Street movies are so well shot.
well, yeah, Wes Craven started him. It's like you
Yeah,
good behind the camera.
yeah, and Rachel Talalay, she's a director who's done Doctor Who episodes and Sherlock as well. She's very good. She directed five, so and she's producer in a lot of them. Yeah, there's a lot of talented people behind Elm Street. It's so funny because I started watching these franchises at the same time because I watched the first one because they were both available on HBO Max, and like similar 80s like horror slasher movies, and they kind of have similar reputations, but the Elm Street movies are so far above the Friday the 13th movies. It's actually like super funny because like how did like these two franchises get like mixed in the same conversation when the first three Elm Street movies are genuinely amazing movies, not just like good slasher, fun slasher horror. They're actually good movies with something to say. So I don't know. It's funny comparing the two franchises. I might make a video about both franchises at some point. Just cause I don't know. It's very interesting how the reputation is like interlinked, but one is like so much better than the other.
Well, even I did that. I slapped him in with the Michael Myers,
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger, but it's like they're all very different characters and very different franchises. So even though they're
Yeah, there's obviously the Freddy versus Jason movie, which I'm curious to watch soon, whenever I get around to it. I've gone deep into like a bunch of like horror franchises recently. I don't know. I love horror. I was like, I need to watch these classics, so I'm probably gonna do Halloween after I'm done with these two. So yeah, and I know you
my
have
God, you have
thoughts on
been
Halloween, so.
yeah, that trilogy. Geez, you recommend that?
All right. Now Evan, it is your turn to recommend something for next week.
Yes, it is. I've had this in my pocket for a while. I'm going with a movie that we are not likely to recommend. We usually, I feel like we usually are recommending things we probably will like, but I'm going with something that we won't likely. An
Okay.
ambulance themed movie because I recommended Michael Bay's The Ambulance when I passed the NREMT. I started working as an EMT this last week. So I am going with S.J. Clarkson's Madam Web.
What? Okay.
Have you ever seen Madam Web?
No.
I haven't either, and everyone else has, and everyone says that it is just there's always like the lowest of the low superheroes. People say this is just the most early 2000s just disjointed mess. And
I did not expect you to recommend Madam Web of all things. Jesus Christ.
I'm so curious because this is that like Suicide Squad style reputation. I almost figured you might have watched it, just one of those like in the group, the watch party, or so bad it's good. And a lot of people have seen it, so yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
alright.
pick.
Okay. It's like recommending fucking War of the Worlds. Jesus Christ. Alright,
All
well.
right.
Madam Web. Madam Web. I can't believe you did it, Devin. I hope it's more fun than fucking Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably not
Yeah,
gonna watch
I
it
got.
sober. I
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna need a little bit of help. That's my. But I hope it's funny. I hope it's
yeah,
entertaining rather than boring. You never know. We'll see.
yeah.
All right.
Madam Web. Okay. Well, thanks very much for watching, folks. Oh yeah, I always forget to do this. Like and subscribe, yeah, so you don't miss any more
Yeah, like.
videos. And if you're watching, listening on Spotify or Apple Music, remember to give us a follow. I've been told that asking people for follows is a good thing, so that's what I'm doing. Oh yeah, if you like listen on Spotify or Apple Music, or if you are a channel member or a patron, you get access to these episodes early, as well as any future videos early if you are a patron or YouTube channel member. That's it. Is there anything else I need to show? I think I don't like shilling. It makes me feel icky, but I think I think we're good now.
I think that's a fair amount of shilling. I mean, we've been going for an hour, so it's like, yes, like, comment,
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe,
I
yeah.
think we've earned that.
Yeah. I
So,
think we
yeah.
deserve it. All right. We'll catch you next week for fucking Madam Jesus. For Madam Web, folks. Bye bye.
Catch you next week, folks. Thanks for pitching in.